Good afternoon. Well, I'm sorry. Good evening, Facebook family and friends. It is Couch Conversations with the Doctors. It's Monday night. What night is it tonight? It's Monday night. It's Couch Conversations with the Doctors. We just want to remind everybody to start those watch parties. Start the watch parties. We want to say hello to all of our Facebook, Instagram, Periscope, all of our social media channels. We are so happy to be here with you on this evening to start our couch conversations with the doctors. Once again, it's Monday night, and we want you to chime in, come on in, sign on in for couch conversations with the doctors. As usual, we're going to go around and do our introductions of everyone that's here and in our roundtable. I know you're probably looking for the congressman on tonight. And on tonight, the congressman is actually in the airport trying to get back to DC. So he is actually just so upset that he is not able to be here with us on tonight, but he is calling and checking in to make sure that we are here and that we are sharing that health is wealth. I'm going to go around the table once again, and I'm going to begin to introduce all of our esteemed panel that's here with us on this evening. I'll start with my coworker, my very own coworker. That's the Dr. Douglas Graham, who is here on today. Douglas Graham, if you can introduce yourself, that would be great.
Thanks, Nikki. I'm a retired physician. I worked in the Chicago area for many years. Last year, I joined Representative Davis' office as congressional fellow. I'm going to try and answer your questions if I can. It's great to be here.
Wonderful, Doug. Wonderful. I want to say hi to Dolores Wiles, who is here, and she says, good evening, doctors. And know that Doug is not shoveling snow like the rest of us is doing right now. He is actually basking in the sun. I want to say hey to my great co-host that's here. You know, one of my great co-hosts that is here that thinks he's a chef, but he doesn't want us to talk about the fact that he eats meat, with Dr. Terry Mason being here. And that would be our very own Dr. P. Dr. P?
Hey, guys. How's it going? I'm in the snow, and but hopefully it'll warm up a little bit and we can get rid of some of the snow. But I'm looking forward to a vibrant conversation tonight.
Wonderful. And he only has one shovel. So if there's anybody out here who's willing to help Dr. P get through and maneuver around that garage door, help him out. He needs an additional shovel. To those of you who know my other co-host, who is that great weight loss guru, who really has a burning passion to be one Iron Chef, that's our very own Tony Hampton. Tony?
Hey, I'm excited to be here. Family doctor, obesity doctor. I think this is a good time of the year to think about improving our health. It's a new year. We've gotten through a crazy pandemic, crazy president, just being honest about that. So now we can start focusing on ourselves. So it's actually a great time for everybody to really say, if not now, then when. So let's make 2021 the best year ever.
Absolutely. I want to say hey to Michelle Garrison, who is checking in with us just as well, checking in with us, Michelle Garrison. I want to say hey to you and thank you for stopping by. To the man who actually keeps us all on target with our diet and has no problem with thinks that you're doing something wrong. Also want to say Tamika Thomas says, hello, Uncle Terry. That's our very own Dr. Terry Mason.
Hi, Mika, that's what we call her. Good to hear from you. I want to thank you, Nikki, for again having this and having an opportunity to join this esteemed panel. Dr. Maya, y'all did a great job yesterday at the church.
Dr. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. They did an amazing job.
Yes, they did. They were awesome.
It was amazing. I mean, just a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for all the inspiration and leadership you have shown a lot of us and trailblazed for a lot of us throughout our lives. This is the first time I've ever respect you so much. This is the first time I've ever said anything, I think, directly to you. So that means a lot. Thank you so much, Dr. Mason, for all you've done historically. Historically. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Well, Maya, since you're there, you just might as well unmute yourself again and introduce yourself. She has promised that one day she's going to feature some African dance for you all because that's what she loves so much. So one day, she's going to do that African dance. And know that Dr. Mason, I was there listening with you guys, and I must say, I had to text her in the middle and go, girl, you are making me proud. Maya, Dr. Maya Green. Go right ahead, Maya.
Thank you for having me, Nikki, and thank you to the whole panel. I'm glad to be here. Let's get into some stuff for our community. This is a place where we have conversation. Thank you for organizing it. Let's go.
All right, I want to say hey to Yolanda Williams who's here, who says good evening to everyone. Just want to remind everyone to please start your watch parties, share again, and start your watch parties as we do the same because it's what Monday night couch conversations with the doctors. So, just like the post said on social media, are we all on edge? Is it COVID? What is it that has everybody so stressed out? Really quickly want to say thank you. Dr. Dolores Wild says thank you to the doctors for all of their prayers and information. I got my vaccine, was successful, and going to get my second dose. Hallelujah. All right, girl, don't take us to church because we'll sure go there with you. So don't take us because we'll go to church with you. Kathleen Jackson says good evening, everyone. And I see Karen has checked in and she's saying evening just as well. So remember to share, and start your watch party. Dr. Pete, why don't you lead us off? It, are we on edge? Is everybody kind of just set up? Or are we stressed? What is it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think we got a lot of stress going on from not just the pandemic, but I think it's the usual stressors that our community experiences. And then you add on top of that this pandemic, which really limits some of the resources that we used to depend on. So, like going to church, for instance, used to be something that would take some of the pressure off of the usual stressors in our community. But then we're not in church anymore. Going to hang out with friends, going to the movie, all those things that used to kind of help in coping with those stressors are limited now. I'm not saying that they're not there anymore, but they're limited. So I think if you add all that up, it can become overwhelming. And so I think it's something that we have to be aware of and acknowledge it and be sure we're not participating in or perpetuating negative behaviors that, like we talked about for you, like your diet, for instance. If you're trying to seek happiness because of some sadness that you're having and you're trying to do that through food, you can see where easily 10, 12, 20 pounds can come on you real quick during this pandemic. And so I think we have to be aware of it and try to seek positive behaviors, to assist us.
I'll jump in and say that I agree with you wholeheartedly, Brother Pete, that the diet can impact your mood. And I've interviewed and talked to people about their diet, and when they've changed their diet, all of a sudden they're not as depressed. And in some cases, more serious conditions like bipolar and schizophrenia get better with diet. Who'd have thought? We thought we had to depend on medications, but let food be thy medicine for mental health as well. And I think it's important that we don't always look to the things that are in front of us, like that alcohol bottle, for example, as an alternative treatment for depression. And it may feel good going down, but it's rare that type of treatment is going to lead to the type of results you're seeking. And that's also true for drugs. And of course, what Brother Pete was saying is that if you eat the wrong food, then it's going to only exacerbate or worsen your depressed mood. So this stress is real. We have to recognize that this stress is real. This is not a dream. We're in a pandemic, so it's real. So you should, give yourself a little bit of a break, a pass. If there's ever a time in your life when you may feel stressed, then now is the time. And I do want to speak momentarily about I've heard some reports out there because we're here to bust, myths about things like COVID-related myths. So one of the things I heard is that 1,000 people died from the vaccine. And when you hear stuff like that, it'll make you pause because it's coming from what you think are reliable sources. But always remember that the reporting agency, I think it's pronounced VAERS, VAERS or so, when we're at you, not only am I able to make a report, you're able to make a report. But the key is that if you have 1,000 people who are reportedly dying, maybe a week or so after the vaccine, the people who work for these agencies haven't had a chance to go back and look at the death certificates. And what they found is that when they went back and looked at those death certificates, nobody died from the vaccine. So it's really important to kind of dot your I's and cross your T's and be very cautious about the things you hear on social media, and don't let those things scare you, because again, we're already in a stressful time, but we want to add stress that's built on untruths. So I'll wrap up with that, but I just wanted to get us started with, let's recognize we do have a stressful time, and let's not use the wrong method to help us deal with the stress.
Dr. Mason, you just look like you got something to say.
No, I'm just going to say this, that most of the people, many of the people, particularly the real social media people, the younger people, we're not seen. See, I remember as a child seeing people with polio. I remember seeing people with these diseases. It wasn't something that was just I could think or imagine. It was real. And I saw, as I mentioned on this show before, I saw the iron lungs. I've seen these kids with the poorly developed legs that couldn't walk. I saw all of that. And many of the people today have not witnessed the diseases other than like we see with COVID, but they don't realize that the vaccines that come out, they're coming out about the same time they always came out. And they had to be tested. And now a lot of things we don't have anymore. We don't have polio anymore because of vaccines. We don't have diphtheria or pertussis or necessarily whooping cough. And if you've never heard a child with a whooping cough, that is not a happy thing. And the primary docs on the panel can speak more to this than I can. But I'm grateful that we're living in a time where everything is so transparent that you can see these things. When we were going through that polio and everything else, there was no internet. There was no instantaneous information. There wasn't any of that. It just came out. And when you could finally get it, and I'm telling you, people lined up like crazy. And I think that we need to just be grateful that we have this opportunity to live now and have the opportunity to get the medications that would help prevent these things.
Maya, because I see your brain moving.
Well, yeah, there is, for those that are into books, I think it's an audio book too. There's a book called Epidemics, Hate and Compassion from the Plague of Athens to AIDS. And it kind of talks about the course that society goes through over and over again anytime there's a pandemic. And so it also digs into during a pandemic. So average length of a pandemic that we've seen, all of them together, 2 years if we get ourselves together, right? Right. Look at what happened with cholera. Every time we almost got it together, somebody did something else. They ended up having 5 bouts and carrying on and just going on. But average length is going to be 2 years. But then within that, anytime that plague or that pandemic, the cause of it is mysterious, like you can't see it, they can't put their hand on it, you can't put it somewhere in public and culture it. It takes the government a long time to come up with a solution. Anytime that happens, we have had bloodshed and hatred towards other communities. That is what happened in the Red Summer at the end of, what was that? The 1918 flu, the Red Summer. It was in Chicago, where again they turned and said, hey, you know, there was a massacre basically and bloodshed of African American community. But that's in line all the way back to Athens. Whoever is the minority that happens. The other reason is because plagues impact the government. When the government can't get it together, international groups can't get it together. There's social effects. And remember, touch is a part of life. If you study babies, when they don't want babies to thrive, unfortunately, in other places, they will put them somewhere and not give touch. And if you study babies, they start rocking and rubbing themselves against each other just to have a touch, because without touch, there literally will be failure to thrive. And so we a lot of times become adults and we forget, like, I'm not a baby anymore, so I shouldn't need touch. Absolutely, we do. Look what happened to people diagnosed with HIV when nobody wanted to touch them. Depression, suicide, those type of things come about because it's just part of the human experience. The first time I see somebody, you shake their hand. If they're a loved one, you hug them, you touch them. And so now that we have the physical distancing, going on, and all these like limits on us, we're seeing a lot of depression, increase in suicide, things like that. And then you have non-specific, they call it non-specific behavior in this book. And that means you're seeing a lot of behaviors that people would classify as odd. And with the increase, there's an increase in crime. And this is all reflective all the way back to Athens of what happens when there's a pandemic or epidemic. Sorry, the book is called Epidemic. I don't know if I call it pandemic but anytime there's an epidemic and we can't put our hands on the cause and we can't identify, if you do this, it will be over, and we can't end it, this happens. So it's very important, like Dr. Hampton said, to watch your intake, to watch your activity, because a lot of us are at home. I had to discover an at-home gym routine, because I used to go to 360 mind, body, soul, and you cycle it out and you get your energy out. And I wasn't doing that. I was sitting at home watching the news, watching the epidemic that we have about race, watching what happened in our government, and I began to experience depression. But then you compare it, and I'll end it, you compare it to social media, and people are putting the highlights of their life on social media, and somehow you interpret that like I should be doing those things. And you have to shut down. You have to get with your meditation, control what you eat, control your activity, what you do, and you definitely have to control your output. Because if I'm saying negative things, allow myself to think negative things, then I'm gonna have negative outcome. The most important person listening to you when you're saying things is you. So you have to be careful with yourself, because you're listening.
Well, you took us back to church. You took us back to church again. The Bible says that the power of life and death lies where? In our own tongue. So we have to be careful what we say. Sarah Ross says, "Good evening, everyone," and she's here and excited to learn. Sarah Ross is a new assignment to our office, and she is simply fantastic. Audrey Jaycox is here. She says, "Good evening, everyone." Dolores Wild says, "You're absolutely right." Once again, Uncle Terry, Mika is calling in the family, telling them to come on and see Uncle Terry. That's right, Mika. Get him, girl. Come on, Miss Ewan. Where are you? I see you putting those names out there. Kathleen Jackson says, "What foods contribute to stress?" Don't start, Dr. Mason. Don't start. But I got my picture just in case.
I'll say something that he'll agree with. This is kind of easy, to be honest with you. And me and Dr. Mason preach the same thing. Stop shopping in the middle part of the grocery store, right? So things that are in packages, in boxes with labels, that tends to be highly processed food with a whole lot of stuff that allows it to be shelf stable. So what's good for the shelf is not good for your body. So all those refined foods, even the vegetable oils, like a lot of times people don't realize that vegetable oils are a lot of time they're seed oils, and those they literally just imagine what it would take to take a seed and turn into a oil. They would have to process that thing to death. Just imagine that. Now, on the other hand, if you take a avocado and they got avocado oil, all you got to do, if you press that, you're going to get oil automatically. If you take an olive, you press that, so those are cold pressed oils that are much better for you. So highly refined seed oils, avoid. Use the oils if possible, if your budget allows, like the avocados, coconut, things like that. Sugar is the devil. Let's go there. And it looks like cocaine for a reason. It's just as addictive. That's right.
Or
you
more.
Can it out if you,
Or more.
Right.
More.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you want to avoid sugar. And I'm sure Dr. Mason would agree. And of course, earlier we talked about excessive alcohol. And yesterday, let me give an example. So yesterday, I'm studying for a test, and it was noon. And I normally, if I have coffee, it's usually before noon. Well, I decided I needed to be a little fresher, so I had coffee at noon. But then, you know how you kind of forget you're drinking and you look down, it's 3 o'clock, and I didn't finish the coffee. So I had more coffee. I finished it up. So now I'm having coffee at 4 o'clock at the end of the day. So guess what happened last night, which is why I'm not my 100% today. I'm waking up at midnight because I couldn't sleep. So it's not only not eating or drinking the wrong thing, it's when you eat it that matters when it comes to alcohol and coffee. So I just wanted to give you an example, but I'm gonna tell you right now, there are many things that can harm your body, but eating real food is the key.
Was that black coffee you was drinking?
Actually, yeah, I know black coffee tastes great. You know what I had in it though? I had a little vanilla flavor, and I had some cinnamon. So you have to be really creative. It don't taste like Starbucks. Let's be clear. But you have to be creative with it. But it does take some of that edge off of that black coffee, which could be a little bitter.
You know, Dr. Hampton, I agree with you. The one thing that we don't want to forget is water. You know, we just don't want to forget drinking water. We still need our water, even though we're not running around as much, but we still need water. Nothing substitutes for water but water. Not flavored water, not any other water, but you just need the water. I just want to make sure that we add that to what we're doing. And the other thing is that I think that you still can converse with people. You have electronic means. I know it's not physical, but you have electronic means. You still got your phones, still got other things. You have to do the best you can with what you got.
Yeah.
And you have to use it in such a way. So don't, I mean, I'm feeling it because I wanted to be on a plane and be gone several times by now. But, you know, I don't obsess about it. I don't get mad because I can't go. And that creates other kinds of stresses for you. So you just have to accept where you are, what we're going through, and know if we do the things that Dr. Maya and everybody's talking about on this panel, we will get to the other side. We're going to get to the other side. This is not going, it ain't going to last forever. And if you do the things that we're talking about on this panel, you'll get to the other side. You'll be okay. So don't stress about it as best as you can. And then it's okay to talk to other people. You can talk to other people, but don't get into a pity party and with a bunch of people that are going to amplify your anxiety. That don't do you any good either. So, and I'm sure the other doctors on the panel can talk about those things that you need to do to help calm yourself down.
Yeah, I'll just add to what everybody said. I agree. I'll add about sleep, the importance of sleep, because to Dr. Hampton's point, that when there are certain hormones that are suppressed when you lack sleep, and so if you are not feeling happy, if you are not feeling, if you're feeling particularly sad or on edge, and you haven't gotten your sleep, those hormones are not being replenished. And so your body views lack of sleep like it does any other like stressor, like high blood pressure, like a blocked artery. That's a stressor to your body, just like you not being able to get a good night's sleep. I was gonna say this: just because you laying in bed does not necessarily mean you're sleeping, right? You're tossing and turning, and you haven't gotten to that REM sleep, that really good sleep, where you see Big Mama and them, you sleep, All right, that's the sleep you want, okay? But so yeah, I'll just leave you with that, and that's very important also.
All right. Well, I might wake up if I see Big Mama. I get scared. Y'all gotta leave me alone. Sean Kennedy says, "Good evening, everyone." Now, Dolores Clouds wants to know where she can get that book from, Maya. So if you can, when you get the opportunity, let's just put that in the chat. So if there's anybody else who wants to get that book, they can. Now, I have no idea why Kathleen Jackson put this word here. And I'm going to share this word And Dr. Mason knows that I love this word. But I'm going to share this word, and I guess you guys can chop this word up any way you want. But she wrote the word bacon. So I'm just going to put that out there. I'm going to put that out there because that's what she said. Now, why she wrote it, I have no idea. But I do have a question from Instagram, and they ask, is laughter medicine?
Short answer, absolutely. A lot of the hormones that are liberated when you laugh are released at the time of, and it takes away the stress. I remember my kids were small, and I was always taking them somewhere on the weekend. So we would go to the Contemporary Art Museum, which on the surface sounds very boring, right? But the Contemporary Art Museum is not boring at all. I remember they had a nice display for that old, anybody remember that movie, The Warriors, back in the day? Come out and play. Yeah, you remember that? That's for the old school folks. They had a whole room set up for the Warriors, so my kids learned about that movie, and they wanted to watch the movie after they saw that. But they had a room that it was just laughing images, and if you walked into that room, it was a guarantee by the time you walked out, you were going to be laughing and feeling better. So there's no question that laughter is helpful. Sometimes when I start my day, I'll go to YouTube and I'll just listen to some of our great comedians do their work, and it's really a great way to heal and feel your spirit. It's almost like music and laugh. Comedy is like, it's almost like religion. It's good for your mind. It takes you to another place. So when you're trying to not have stress, you have to do things like being mindful. You have to move your body. You got to eat right. And you have to do all of these. And sometimes something as simple as reframing how you see the world. So there's a lot of ways of looking at what we're going through. And you can look at it from a negative perspective. But people in your life who are negative, and you have people in your life that are positive. The question is, why are those people who are positive positive? It's not no accident. It's an intentional thing. And some days I have to start my day by intentionally reframing how I deal with anything that happens in my life. And rather it's how I had to recover from the coffee experience and not have coffee this morning so my body can get it out of my system. I look at things as lessons learned. So now I kind of know, okay, make sure when you're dealing with coffee, this is how you have to deal with it. Everything in life can be reframed in a positive way. And if you start training your brain to do that, and just like Dr. Maya said, what you tell your brain is going to believe it. So if you keep telling your brain, I'm not stressed about COVID, I'm in a good relationship, I'm going to be a good father, all the things you will become all of those things. So but you have to practice those behaviors. And the best way to start is to listen to somebody inspirational tomorrow morning. If you've listened to Eric Thomas, just go to YouTube and type in Eric Thomas. He's a great motivational speaker. As an example, Les Brown's been doing it forever. Listen to Les Brown. There are plenty of people out there that will inspire you, and you can use those little nuggets to change how you feel. And then when you go to work, you will change the entire environment at work because they will feed off of that positive energy.
All right, so all those pastors who just started texting me about listening to them, type it in the chat. Dr. Hampton just missed you. He intended to say each one of those pastors' names that's texting me right now because he intended to say that to y'all. That y'all they can go to YouTube and listen to you guys too. So just type your YouTube link right there in the chat, and he got you. And he said he's gonna listen to you in the morning too, right? Right, Dr. Hampton? There you go. Right.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny you say that. I wrote an article with a diet doctor. So if anybody goes to the low carb corner, just put Dr. Tony Hampton low carb. I just wrote an article about anxiety. And yes, on my list of things to do, I had a spiritual section. So, got to go there because I think for a lot of people who are spiritual, that is the foundation for them. And if they don't get that every day, then they're missing an important link.
Wonderful. There's part two to that question of what foods can cause anxiety. Are those the same foods that can cause depression?
Pretty much. I mean, your body is everything's interconnected, and you would be surprised. I mentioned earlier I had interviewed a young lady, Amber O'Hearn, and she used diet to put her bipolar in check. I talked to Matt James, who I talked to on Wednesday, and he used diet to help deal with his father's issue around. His father was so depressed that, and all the docs on the panel who did a psychiatric rotation. I did a psychiatric rotation at the VA in North Chicago, not North City, but the actual suburb out there near Lake Forest. And at that VA hospital, some of the veterans were so sick that they could not get out of their depression without that electric shock therapy, right? So this Matt James, who's in another country, he was able to use a dietary change to improve his dad so much that it was the first time he ever left the hospital without having to be shocked. So I thank God for shock therapy. I thank God for medication. But man, we have other ways to heal people, and what we're trying to do is get that message out so that you're not like a prisoner to pharmaceuticals. You're not a prisoner to all of these other therapies, which in some ways sound kind of out of date. But we'll do whatever is necessary. But what we forget to do sometimes is to simply change our diet, which will then affect our hormones and all those neurotransmitters in our body. When you think about serotonin and epinephrine and norepinephrine, all those neurotransmitters will then function properly because they also need nutrition and nutrients to function properly. So if you don't feed your body what it needs, you will absolutely not feel whole. You will not feel well, and you will be depressed, and you will have bipolar, and you will have all these medical conditions that are in some ways related to your diet.
So what about soda pop? Coke, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, even those caffeine, Red Bull, boosters. And Tony, before you even open, Dr. Mason is about to explode. His head is trembling. His whole body is trembling.
No, not really. I think that, when we do these sugars and these concentrated sugars, particularly these high fructose corn syrup based sugars that are plentiful in our soft drinks and many of the other things that we eat, we got to remember that brings the levels up high, but then it also brings it down low. And so you'll crash. I mean, you really will crash with this. So, and everyone, I think everyone in the panel will probably agree that these things, that's why I said water. I didn't say anything else. I said water. And we have to, the other thing is that for people of faith, now is the time to exercise your faith. Okay. Faith is not something you have when you get ready to go to church or when you start listening to your scripture. Faith is something that you got to have all the time. Because if you don't have it all, if you ain't got that all the time faith, you ain't got the right faith. And that is what you think about what we're going through now. But tomorrow I'm going to be doing some stuff. But when I think about what we've been through as a people, what our parents and grandparents and great grandparents had to go through and survive as a people to get us to this day, we really don't have anything to complain about. Because but for them and their beliefs, and they're holding on to many times something that was far more fragile than a thread of hair to just keep them going. We don't have anything to be complaining about. We really, really, really don't. And yeah, this is a tough time, but you know what? I think it was Robert Schuller that said, tough times never last, but tough people do.
All right. Well, at this time, we're going to pause and pass the offering. We have now reached the offering.
Well, I'm gonna sing an A and B selection.
Thank you, girl, because Big Station just took us to church. You got mother body slut. You didn't just slayed her in the spirit. She couldn't get enough S's on the word yes, because you just slayed her in the spirit. Tamika Thomas, aka Mika, says food is medicine. Now that lets us know whose family she came from, but she didn't win biblical orders with their faith without what? Works?
is
It's
dead.
dead. You done set us off. And Curtis Jones is laughing. Curtis, you know you over there making a two-step at your house when the bishop started. That's our usher. Curtis is the usher. He is now passing the plate. And Lorenzo Burton is telling you to preach. So go right ahead, Bishop Mason. In a moment, we're going to have the A and B selection by Dr. Maya Green. She's going to come in with that A and B selection. And our MC for the evening is going to be Dr. Jasmine.
Hey, how are you guys?
Doing good.
So
Let the church say amen.
Amen.
Amen. Definitely, Dr. Mason has taken us straight to the church. He took us straight to church, didn't he?
He did.
But you got to remember, we had a song that we used to sing that said, "Well, we can't come this far by what?
Hey, there you go.
Trusting in His holy." Don't get me started, because that's my favorite.
Go ahead, Mario. That's her
No. But sometimes, see, with our new generation, we forget who we are and what kind of people we are. We're not those people just tied to these electronic devices, because our parents and our foreparents and the grandparents and on down the line, you think they didn't have stuff to endure?
Mm-hmm.
You don't think they had stresses and what have you in their life? Because they weren't stressed because somebody didn't like them on Facebook. Wasn't no Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to deal with the reality of dealing with each other person to person.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's uncomfortable for this generation because we don't do much of that anymore.
Why don't you think that? What's your hypothesis, Dr. Mason? Why don't you think that we do that anymore? Or Dr. Meyer, anyone on the panel?
Well, I'll leave it to you, Dr. Jasmine. I mean, you're the head doctor down there.
Yes. I mean, no, there's a lot of reasons. I'm just hearing you. Of course, I joined late, so I do apologize about that. But you're right. Our ancestors, people before us, endured a lot of things. I'm thinking about whether it was slavery, whether it was the multiple responsibilities of raising the family, having multiple jobs. And, fast forward to 2021, it's different, right? Same responsibilities, same jobs and responsibilities, but I think people are dealing with it in their own way and differently than people previously, right? Now, are we talking about mental health more? Do you think that's the difference between now compared to previously? Is there now a discussion more so with the prevalence of mental health and how it can affect, and maybe people are just more vocal than previously, but then it could be behaviors. Those are my hypotheses, but I don't know, I'm just interested what the panel.
Hey, Jasmine, today when you and I were seeing patients together, I saw more than at least two people who came in for, on top of whatever else care that they needed, was saying, I'm depressed. Mm-hmm. And I guess, I'm just saying, I've been practicing for a minute, and whatever. But I remember a time when you had to pull that out of people.
Yeah.
I remember a time when, and these are very resilient, I'll just say it, Black women, just resilient, right? Can handle and take anything. That they didn't say I'm depressed. They just didn't say it. And you had to like, well, hey, Miss Jones, something's not right now.
Yeah.
Talk to me. Tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
Pull that out of them. But today, 3 people just walked in and said, I'm depressed. Mm-hmm. I don't feel myself. I feel like I'm losing it. And I'm like, wow, well, this is great. So my job is easier. Okay, we're gonna get you right on across the hall there and talk to Dr. Jasmine.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
But I'm an internist, so I like medications. I always like to offer medications, and I know that because I think there's a value to that, especially when people are so sick that I feel like they something bad might happen to them between now and. I like to at least offer what help I can give. Yeah. But I'm thinking, Jasmine, that you're right, that I think more people are coming to terms with this idea that I'm not Superwoman. I'm not Superman, and I need help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Versus previously just dealing with it and managing it in their own way and just saying Jane died of a heart attack or Jane died of this and that when it could have been underlying mind body connections. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. So,
and then Dr. Jasmine, I think now if we're talking about Black and brown communities, we're at a space where at first there was no space to talk about. Think about 60 years ago. People was just trying to wrap their heads around like we was human.
Yeah.
Was just trying to wrap their heads around that. And so we didn't come and then fast forward, we weren't used to taking that space because our community is so used to holding everybody else's stuff that we like I forgot who said we use church as a Dr. Pete. We would go Sunday and lay it down. We would go this time and lay it down. And now certainly there's spaces, there's virtual things like that. But also we're getting to a point where we can walk in and thank you, Dr. Pete, for being in the community where people can walk in. Just because they go to the doctor don't mean they feel comfortable talking about that stuff.
Absolutely.
And then a lot of times when we was trying to pull it out, we get that hard and fast, like, what, you trying to say I'm crazy? I'm gonna tear it away. And you now we're getting to the point where God or whatever your source is may have brought you to that doctor's appointment so you can say it, so you can get help from Dr. So we're just now having this space as a community to talk about it. The other thing, Dr. Jasmine, that you said was interesting, do we think we're talking about it more? Yes, because there was a time when they looked at our community as people that just serve and even owning our emotions. And still, when you look at what happened with Serena when she went to the hospital and other places, they still will expect us to be that strong Black. When we may be, that don't mean we don't need support. The other thing is, there's still spaces where we cannot talk about it. I remember going back, being in a public space the day after kind of what we saw, the insurrection, and it is related to COVID, because remember, when you have these epidemics, the first sign that things are going to go bad, it comes from international and government relations, and then it has a social impact and an individual impact. So when we watched that, we knew they were fighting to keep oppressed communities oppressed. That's what that was about. And so now this person is supposed to go to work and perform, So, and there's still spaces we can't talk about. Let's talk about Dr. Pete. If you just go outside and just by yourself tonight try to run.
Right.
No, sir.
Right.
Sir. So that's still, there's still levels that still need to be unpacked. That's why we're thankful for people like you, Dr. Jasmine.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, we're thankful for everybody because they have to most times get to you guys before they even get to me, because most people are not going to come to me first. Some people do, but thinking about it, from a medical perspective, most times they're going to family medicine, internal medicine provider, pediatrician, and then those concerns are brought up. Unfortunately, some places have an integrated behavioral health component, like Near North Health Service or Advocate or whatnot, that could walk those patients over and get treated automatically, or instantly. Yeah. So, and you're right, Dr. Maya, I was going to say something, thinking about the church. Sometimes when patients do see me, I've had to use spirituality to help them make meaning of what if, just what if God or whoever you serve, this was the purpose for you to come to this visit, then get to me, right? And have them think about it in a different way from a spirituality perspective. So.
And to complete, and then I'm going to let it go. And to complete it, that is a reality that Dr. Pete, Dr. Tony, Dr. Mason, they have to deal with in the body of being a Black man in this society. Like we talked about, go out and get exercise. Say you just go try to run for your mental and physical health. Just go take a run outside. You know what I'm saying? It ends differently. And so that is a space where and they look how they looking, straight face. They've normalized it. Look at them. They like, yeah.
And Maya, I was in DC for a conference, and I ran like I just ran like the whole Capitol area.
Mm-hmm.
So I was joking with my wife. I told her, I said I had a police escort the entire way. It's like every turn I made, I had a police car.
Yes.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, and you're right, Maya. It's so normal to me that I didn't freak out. I'm like, well, I'm going for a run, so I'm happy you're here, but there gotta be something else you gotta be doing with your time. It's fine if you want to follow me around while I do my 5-mile run. That's cool, but you're right. It is something that you just normalize, and so you wonder like how much of that, in the back of your mind plays a role in what you're carrying.
Especially now during COVID.
Yeah. Right.
It's layers.
Yeah.
Only
I
thing
don't want us to miss this one piece about faith, though, because faith can be very helpful when you are going through some things, because it gives you the glue to hold on.
Yep.
When nothing else will give you that glue to hold on, if you've got faith, and I'm not saying what kind of faith. I'm not making a determination about what it is, but faith that sustains you. And I could say this, that sometimes getting on these, I know some people that have these prayer lines, and they get on, it's just a regular phone thing, and they have a little prayer thing, and people feel so much better sometimes after. And I'm not saying that substitutes for professional intervention or medication or any of those things when it's necessary, but sometimes you need just another person to talk to, or maybe to listen. Just to listen. And I'll say this and stop. That was the one thing that I miss most about not being in practice anymore. Particularly dealing with men with erectile dysfunction. Because, I'm going to say this why. Because it's very serious. There's not a lot of places for men to go and talk about that.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
And the circumstances around which that create more anxiety around that problem. And perhaps to have somebody to listen. Sometimes people just need you to listen. You don't need to say anything, but they need somewhere, like the songs, they need to take it someplace. Sometimes you could take to the Lord in prayer, but sometimes you need a person.
Yeah.
And I like the idea. The one thing that I miss is that men, and maybe women too, but certainly men, don't have those safe spaces. And I think the only time they may get it is when they come into the doctor's office, because they know that for HIPAA reasons, everything got to stay in that room. But a lot of times and I don't care how big or how small, I don't care how rich or how poor, when it comes down to these kinds of issues and you're in pain, and you're not even aware that you're in as much pain as you're in, or you're having difficulties, marital difficulties, or relationship difficulties on top of all this other stuff, or you're trying to deal with that and trying to help your child learn online, and you don't know what they're doing either. So you're dealing with the frustration of trying to help people that you can't help because you don't know, or maybe not educated enough to do it. So there's all kinds of things that are going on that we need spaces for people to be able to share and feel bad about it.
And Dr. Mason, that was when you think about what it means to be a village, And I always say that was one of the reasons why this Sunday we were like, hey, who are we going to access? We're going to access the village, and we're going to access the leaders of the village, because like I said before, we may think we're so far removed from the motherland, but we still operate in tribe.
Right.
And so when we did Trinity, we went to Pastor Moss because that's the leader of that tribe. So that's why it's important to have those spaces that you can see people that look like you, talk to people that look like you. The space that Nikki has created here, because for some people, I get people that reach out and be like, "Oh, I was so glad to see you on the couch conversations," because for some people, they come, they listen, and they want to hear it. Even this for them is uplifting because they know people of color that are consistently watching the research, talking about that vaccine, talking about the need to get it, talking about resources, where to go, and just able to have conversations where we laugh. There's references to tie people's spiritual space in, and then I believe at the end of that, Dr. Mason was can't turn around. Now we've come this far, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so when you think about COVID, if you are on the other side of 2020, you did that. You did that.
Yeah.
That. You
Mhm.
did that. And then where we are now is getting to the other side. And how do we get that? Going back to what Dr. Hampton said, really focusing on our physical input, mental health, and I'm hearing consistently the reference to our spiritual health. A lot of times
Yeah.
in this space, we don't like to, we want to be VC and everything like that. We're still mind, body, spirit, watching that spiritual health. And then one thing I found for myself is a lot of times if I'm in a space where I'm counted down, and to answer somebody's question, I'll share the foods that make me have increased anxiety or feel a little down. Like Dr. Mason said, I'm a member of Gummy Bear Anonymous. Baby, I was eating some gummy bears, and so it give me that high and that low. Also, high fatty foods, high dairy foods like ice cream, red meat, or according to Dr. Any meat, but meats, fried foods, ice cream, those things that my body will say, hey, I want this. This might make me feel better, make you feel better for a little while, then it comes down. Unless
Exactly.
you train your body to eat healthy. And then what I've learned is for the same thing I would get out of ice cream, I can eat an avocado smoothie. And it has the same, put some avocado, put some fresh fruit, things like that, mix it up with some ice, it's good. But the bottom line is taking care of yourself and being aware and protecting yourself. And we got to protect our village. We have a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not going to say we're almost out of it, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Get with your tribe and protect your tribe. Let's pull each other out together.
Yeah, that was actually good. One thing that I also talk about and have people to think about, even myself this year, is SAMHSA came out with the 8 dimensions of wellness. You were talking about spiritual health, you talk about mind and body, but they also have highlighted other dimensions like financial, cultural, and basically that model states that if one is not together, it can impair the others and negatively affect one's mental health. So saying that, being more intentional, I think that's my term for this year, being more intentional with the why we're doing things. Why am I working out? Why am I talking to this person? Why am I giving this person my energy? Who am I, or what spaces am I going to trust to communicate my needs and wants, as well as my emotions that are going on? I think that's a term to remember to really move forward, being intentional in those 8 dimensions of wellness. I just want to add that as you guys were talking about the mind, body, and spirit. Yeah.
Can you add that to the chat or should I find it? Because I have to take a look at that.
It's Samson. Yeah, they come out. I always talk about it's really good. And it's really, I'm going to put the link in there for others. And it's called the 8 dimensions of wellness. Okay.
So we have a number of amens here and truth and amen again and preach Dr. Maya from Sean Kennedy and Mika is saying let's subscribe. It says it all. It's just so much being said in reference to all the great things that you guys were talking about. William Burton said we need a safe place as men. And I love one of the anonymous comments that we got, and that was I believe in Jesus and the therapy. So I love it. I truly love it. I believe in Jesus and the therapist. But Pete, we have an abundance of questions in reference to where does Pete practice and how could they see Dr. Pete? So, near North Health Corporation, see Dr. Pete right over on 43rd and Berkeley at CoMed Health, right there on 43rd and Berkeley. He's at a number of their centers, but if you just call that number, you can grab Pete somewhere, and I know either Pete will share that phone number with you, If you need it, we'll make sure that they get the next shot.
Hey, Nikki, you know what? They can get a twofer. They can get me and Dr. Jasmine.
There you go. You can get
They get a 2-for-1 deal. They come to see Dr. Pete.
You can't beat that. You can't beat that. You can't beat the 2-for-1. You can't beat it. You can't beat the 2-for-1. You cannot beat it. You gotta be a part of the twofer.
Yeah, they can go to Dr. Pete, get their body, checked out, assessed. They can come over yonder across the hall and just get an assessment, talk about mental health. Right there we go. So
you don't even have to go. They don't even have to go out the building, do they? They can walk across the hall.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go out the building. You don't have to drive. You're not going across the parking lot. You're not doing any of that. And if you want to catch Dr. Maya, you can catch her at any of the Howard Browns. And don't forget that you can grab Dr. Tony Hampton at any of the Advocate Healthcare. So you have everybody right here. Everybody is right here.
Hey,
right
Nick,
here at your fingertips. Yes, ma'am.
it's all good. Dr. Pete is a staple in the community, great in his own right. He can have it. Go to Dr. Pete, y'all. No, it's all good.
No, Dr. Ma, I want to share some love. So please, you can also see Dr. Ma.
You know what? One of the things,
phenomenal family medicine.
But here's what I have to share with you, Marty. When I'm looking at the statistics of who's asking me where's Dr. Pete at, I had to say that because these are men asking me where is Pete. And that's deep. Because when a man is asking to go to the doctor, I want them to know that they can go and see Dr. Pete. I even had a few men ask me where was Dr. Mason, and I responded back and told them he at home. But if you see Dr. Pete, see the call, Dr. Mason first.
Right.
No, one of the things I'm trying to really, and I don't know where to make space for. One thing I realized, like if people are asking for Dr. Pete, let's give them Dr. Pete. Let's give, I think sometimes, and thank you so much. We want to always be like, hey, let's spread it. Dr. Pete, I feel like has done so much, and I really felt that you were talking about your 3 patients today, and I know you're one of the people that I study under too. And so I feel like it's okay to just say, hey, people are asking for Dr. Pete. Let's give them Dr. Pete's information. They don't need it, let's respect this Black man that has done so much for our community for where it is, and just end it right there. You know what I'm saying? Our day is enough.
Wonderful. It's wonderful. We respect him. That's why I want them to know that they can find him and see him there. But I sure don't want the federal government to have no problems to say that we are only pushing one clinic. So that's why I want to let them know you can go see Pete over at CoMed. I even told them where to see him at. But you can also see Dr. Myers. You can see Dr. Hampton. You can go right around this table and see all of those people you need to see. But those were men. When we look at the statistics, that these were some men who have actually been following the show for a while, who had like this was their first time ever having conversation with doctors. So to see them on today say, where can I find Dr. Pete at? Find him on 43rd in Berkeley. Find him right over there at any of the near North healthcare clinics. Know that you can also find Dr. Maya at any of the Howard Browns. You can find her. I got a ton of people asking, can you come speak for them? So I'm going to definitely hook you up so you can speak with Dr. Maya. And of course, everybody want to lose a pound or two, but that's not just all Tony does. He is the weight loss guru, but there's so many avenues to Dr. Tony Hampton. He can help you do a whole bunch of things, just a whole bunch of stuff. He can motivate you to lose some weight and leave jalapeno potato chips alone. He can. He will motivate you to steer away from jalapeno potato chips. I'm not saying that I've left them alone. I have. That's my vice. When Maya was talking about her vice, my vice is jalapeno potato chips. But I have found a new flavor, and I know Dr. Mason would be so. Oh, there he is. He's back. Dr. Mason would be so proud of me to know that I have left jalapeno potato chips alone. I have. I haven't had a jalapeno potato chip since October. So he would be so proud of me. And my new snappy, crunchy thing that I have is freeze-dried okra. I freeze dry my own okra, and it tastes like potato chips. It'll fool you. It tastes like potato chips, and I just eat that okra up. Yeah, I'm shaking a little cayenne pepper on it so I can get that jalapeno type. But yeah, it's working for me right now. It's working. So I love it. But guess what, guys? I know you guys hate to hear me say this. It's that time again. It is that time. So we're gonna go around the table really quickly, and we're gonna say our until next Monday. So Douglas Graham, my coworker, I'm gonna start with him. Doug, what's your until next Monday? Once you come off mute.
So as we started, there is a lot of news happening, and the news is coming at us fast, and a lot of it is bad news. And the answer is really to kind of keep your balance and keep your perspective about it. What you hear something one day, news might be different the next. So just hang in there, listen to this show, keep cool about it. That's all.
All right, Curtis is saying, Kathleen Jackson is asking for the part two, please. And we're getting a number of those texts as well for some part two. On the part two, please. It's all right. Dr. Jasmine, you're
Absolutely. I would say, today we really focused on stress, burnout, compassion fatigue, mental health, and wellness. One thing that I want the listeners to really remember or take away from today's couch conversation is that the mind and body are connected. They're not separate entities. I know that's something that we've talked about over and over. And listen to your body, take care of your body, take care of your mind, and be more intentional in everything that you do within the next 7 days until we see you guys next week. That's what I would leave. Yep.
Great. Dr. Mason, you're until next Monday.
Hey, listen, just continue to stay strong and know that God is with you. No, I don't care what it looks like, but just know that God is with you.
Come on, man.
And you with him or her, however you like to say it. And I want to put a shameless plug in, Nikki, if I can. We're going to our restart program again at Trinity United Church of Christ, our weekly meetings. You will see some of the same people you see on this panel on some of those meetings. The first one will be on March 4th. And if you're interested, you just send me your email address to newday77@yahoo.com. That's NUDAY77@yahoo.com. And we'll get you all set.
Right,
Don't cost anything.
Dr. Mason, when you get the opportunity, I want you to type that email address in the chat for me, please. Okay. To Tamika Thomas and Effie Hayes, I want you guys to be here next Monday, tagging the same people that y'all tagged today and get them on here. Dr. Maya, you're until next Monday.
I think one of the things that brought to mind, sometimes I get in that space, I'll go and smile and encourage another person just straight out of that space. And that instantly increases or lifts my own spirit. And in the words of what we've been saying, I hear the quote and say, "Oh, when you turn around, we've
come this far.
By faith."
You better stop now.
All right. Okay. Once again, we're gonna break right now. I'm gonna call on Curtis Jones. Curtis, if you can please pass the collection plate right now. It is so necessary. You are right, Maya. We truly have come this far by what? By faith. All right. Kathleen Jackson says sing. She just didn't say sing. She said sing. And Sean Kennedy says, come on, church. Come on here. All right. Dr. Tony Hampton, you're until next Monday.
I want us to reframe how we look at mental health, how we look at stress. And I always tell people we're going to use medicines as bridge therapy. We're going to use that to chemically settle us down. But at the end of the day, we need to know what the root cause of our stress is, our depression. And what you'll find is that for some of us, it's what we eat. For some of us, it's because we don't exercise. For some of us, because we don't get enough sleep. For some of us, we're in toxic relationships. For some of us, we have life experiences from the past that have us prisoner and won't let us go. And we think a certain way that we need to stop thinking a certain way. One of my favorite books to help me deal with people is called Boundaries by Henry Cloud. That book teaches me how to say no to folk I need to say no to, so I can focus on Tony. And what you want to do is start thinking about what's the root cause of why I'm the way I'm feeling. And once you find that solution, you'll find that 6 months and maybe 12 months from now, you won't need a pill because you've gotten to the root cause. So that's what I want. So whenever you're faced with a challenge, you keep peeling that onion until you get to the real reason why you're acting and feeling the way you're feeling. And once you get to that root cause, then you can heal. You can't heal with pills. Pills are temporary solutions for most people. But it's okay temporarily because when you're in a crisis moment, you need help in that moment. So whether it's a pill or a therapist, we will use that. And then you learn how to heal by getting to the root cause.
All right. Dr. T. Thomas, you're until next Monday.
I'm so proud of my line, brother. I'm just, you almost had me in tears over here. So, I was just thinking, this weekend I got a chance to see the movie Judas and the Black Messiah with my family, and I was happy that we had a vibrant. I don't know what was happier, that my kids saw the movie, and I was so impressed with how insightful they were about the movie. But what it taught me was what Dr. Mason talked about and Dr. Maya mentioned earlier, which is this sense of gratitude that we have to have, because there's so many people that didn't make it. That Fred Hampton was 20 years old. He was a kid, but he sacrificed his entire life, right? Just for the liberation of our people. And so we think about this sacrifice that we're in right now. Y'all, we got this. We got this. To Maya's point, you made it to 2021. You got this. Now, that don't mean lay up and relax now. We got to keep our masks on, watch your distance, wash your hands, get your vaccine, and get some ventilation going, okay? But we got this. So let's calm down, be grateful, be thankful. To Dr. Maya's point, spread some of that love out. Do something for somebody, okay? And don't focus on the negative so much. And then also do a couple of burpees too to make you feel better.
All right. Just a few more announcements before we go on this evening, before we talk about where to find us at next week. Congressman Danny K. Davis, in conjunction with Prism Health Lab, New Galilee NB Church, and the By the Hand Club, sponsors a free COVID-19 vaccine event. There will be 1,000 doses of Moderna up for grabs on Saturday. Our FQHCs will be there with us, Howard Brown and Dr. Maya Green. We will have those from Near North Health who will be there with us and stopping by just as well to help the laboratory out, to make sure everything is going great. And they'll be giving out 1,000 doses of Moderna as long as you have the criteria for 1B, for phase 1B. Remember, this is Saturday, February 27th, 2021, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the By the Hands Club, 416 North Laramie Avenue in Chicago. That's 416 North Laramie Avenue in Chicago. Now, I'm going to put these flyers up in so you can see them, but I just want to share with you. If you'd like to call and make your appointment, that's 800-325-1812. Once again, that phone number is 800-325-1812. 800-325-1812. You must make an appointment in order to be there. Please have a valid ID. COVID vaccines are free and to the public. No insurance is required. There is no cost. The COVID-19 vaccine is safe and effective. And once again, there is no cost. To ensure that all federal CDC guidelines of safety are covered, please make sure that you register for your appointment. Keep crowds down and make sure that you wear your mask and social distancing while attending your appointment. So I'm going to post this flyer up so you can see it and actually make those appointments. Also, I want to let you know that Congressman Danny K. Davis and the Educational Task Force Black History Makers Program, in conjunction with Youth Introspect Services, will be having their History Makers via Zoom on Sunday, February 28th at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time via Zoom. All of the Zoom information will be posted and on this link for you just as well. The Westside Black elected officials and partners present the virtual COVID Town Hall Vaccination Town Hall meeting. This will be Saturday at 11 a.m. to 12:30 noon via Zoom. There's a registration link that you need to have there. And this is in part, this is the Congressman in partnership with the Clerk of the Circuit Court, Karen Yarbrough, Alderman Emmer Mitz, LaShawn Ford, Commissioner Dennis Deere, Commissioner Donna Miller, Senator Van Pelt, State Rep Omari Williams, Senator Kimberly Lightford, Alderman Michael Scott, County Commissioner Brandon Johnson, the Speaker of the House for the State of Illinois, Emmanuel Chris Welch, Christopher Talaferio, which is the Alderman of the 29th Ward, Alderman of the 28th Ward, Jason Irving, Kerry Steele, the President of MDRW, Camille Lilly, State Rep of the 78th District, Debbie Martin, President of State Rep of the 38th District, our Secretary of State, Jesse Wade, and so many, many more. Make sure that you get this information, and this link will go up for you just as well so you can visit that virtual town hall meeting. As we always say, visit us here, same that time, same that channel, right here next Monday night with Couch Conversations with the Doctors, where health is true wealth. We also want to make sure that you stay safe until you meet us again on next week. Remember to get your vaccine. If you are in this phase, get your vaccine. Tony, how do you feel?
Wonderful.
And you've had both vaccines, am I
Both
correct?
vaccines, and I would do it all over again if I could. I encourage everybody.
Dr. how do you feel?
I feel great. I'm telling you, there was no side effects at all from mine.
All right. Dr. Mason, have you had your vaccine yet?
No, I missed my appointments for other meetings. So I'm gonna drag myself in and get it did.
All right, so we'll see you on Saturday.
You know, I could come over on Saturday. I'll look and see. I could come over on Saturday.
You sure could. Dr. Jasmine, you've had your vaccine, right?
Absolutely, both doses, and I would do it all over again. So I had Moderna. So.
And for those of you who don't know, not have her vaccine,
Right back.
but for her second vaccine, she slayed as she walked in the door with her fascinator and her ball down on. Dr. Michael, how do you feel?
I feel great. Shout out to Dr. Kinsey who helped develop the Moderna. I got Moderna right here, and I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine.
Doug, have you had your vaccine yet?
No, I haven't, but both of my daughters have, and I'm probably in line to get it next week. I can't wait.
And everybody is fine. There is no issues with any of them. They are simply great.
That's
So
it. No
stop
problem.
listening to all that craziness that you're gonna have two heads and extra arms. Everybody here is fine. I see Michelle says I've had both of my vaccines with no side effects, so very good. Get your vaccine. And until then, we want to remind you to do the following things. Wash your hands. Make sure that you keep washing your hands very good. Get in here. And as Dr. Maya Green says, don't forget to get here and down in here. Get those hands all washed. There you go. Get those hands all washed. Also remember to social distance. Stretch those arms out. And if you are touching someone and they are touching you, just ask them to scoot over just a little bit. You guys can still be in the same room. Just make sure they scoot over a little bit and that you're social distancing, keeping that distance between you. And most of all, those droplets are the problem. So make sure that you step up and mask up. Wear that mask over your nose and mouth, like this, over these areas. In here, making sure that what happened to my mask wearers? Oh my God, we fell off my mask wearers. There we go. Remember to put your there, thank you, over your nose and mouth to wear it properly. Not just over your nose, not just over your mouth or on your chin, but make sure that you have it properly across your nose and mouth. Right, there you go, Jasmine. Show that no-no again. What's that no-no? That's a no-no to have that mask right there. Keep it up there. Remember to do that, and we can see you on next week. Safety is the best. See you then. Good night, everybody.
Night.